The Maharashtra government's decision to take over 80% of hospital beds in private hospitals and cap the prices that can be charged for patients in these facilities has sparked off several big questions. Today we look to answer those questions. Should the state use special powers to take over private hospitals? Those are some of the questions. The second question that we want to raise today on the Corona Dialogue is very simply, should the government decide the price structure at such hospitals? The third question that we want to raise, have private hospitals opted out of the COVID fight? Are private hospitals only driven by the profiteering motive? And the fifth big question, is India's healthcare system still dependent on government hospitals in a crisis? Those are the five big questions that we are going to raise on the Corona Dialogue. I'm joined by special guests at the moment. I'm joined by Sujata Rao. She's former Health Secretary of the Government of India. I'm joined by Abhay Soy, Chairman Max Healthcare. I will be joined by Dr. Muzaffar Lakdawala. He is a surgeon and the man who is in charge of the Saifi Hospital and the efforts being made by the by the Mumbai Municipal Corporation in working on setting up makeshift COVID hospitals across the city. I also hope to be joined shortly by Naresh Trehan of Medanta. Let's start with all the questions that I want to raise. And the first big question, should the state use special powers to take over private hospitals? Naresh Trehan, what's your view? Do you believe that the state should use special powers to take over private hospitals because they believe private hospitals are not doing enough in this COVID fight, and therefore hospital beds from private hospitals are being taken over by the government? Okay, Dr. Trehan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you believe it's the right step for the state to take over private hospitals, because private hospitals, according to the Maharashtra government, for example, are not doing enough to get involved in the COVID fight?
No, private hospitals have to get involved in the fight for sure. And it is in the power of the government today under the Pandemic Act to requisition any hospital which is required. So what have we done from Medanta and Gurugram to supplement the government's efforts? We have adopted a hospital, Medeor Hospital, in Manesar, and converted it into a COVID hospital so that we have the capacity to take care of patients which overflow from the government hospitals or otherwise want to get admitted. So this kind of thing is happening around the country, and private hospitals have volunteered to give beds, and also they
Dr. Trehan, according to the Maharashtra government, 80 to 85% of the burden of the COVID fight in Mumbai, for example, is being done by 4 government hospitals. And that the private hospitals were overcharging COVID patients, as a result of which the government has been forced to intervene.
So I cannot comment on what's happening in Maharashtra or in Mumbai. I can tell you what's happening in Haryana and Gurugram, because that's the area we are present in. So the private hospitals have created this facility, a not-for-profit facility in Medeor Hospital, which is 150 beds with 20 ICU beds, with all the adequate equipment of ventilators and everything that may be required. So this is already happening, that the government has 2 hospitals and we have created this hospital to augment the facility, and it's open to public. So that was the whole effort. So I'm sorry, I cannot comment about Mumbai because I don't have the...
Let me get Dr. Muzaffar Lakdawala, who is based in Mumbai. And Muzaffar Lakdawala, you are a doctor who's actually working now with the BMC. Your hospital facilities are you're working in collaboration with the BMC. Do you believe governments are justified in taking over private hospitals, Dr. Lakdawala?
I was a private doctor until 2 months back. I was doing this. Right. We need to realize that it's not about private or government. This is about partnership which does have to exist.
Let me try and come back to you, Dr. Lakdawala. We are having a problem with your audio. Let me go at the moment to Abhay Soy, Chairman Max Healthcare. You tell us, Abhay Soy, do you believe that private hospitals have to follow a certain government diktat in crisis times like COVID?
So, Rajdeep, let me tell you, I think, at times like this, at a time of pandemic, there's no question everybody needs to stand shoulder to shoulder, whether it's the private sector. I don't completely buy into the fact that the private sector has not been, not be standing up where it's required. I mean, I can give you our own example. In Mumbai, we were the first hospital which volunteered 110 beds. Even today 5%. And we have a single facility in Mumbai. 5% of Mumbai's critical care beds are at Nanavati Hospital. In Delhi, 20% of the critical care beds is in our facility. It's a flagship of ours, which we provided. It's the second largest hospital in Delhi providing services to COVID patients. We already addressed the requirements of more than 1,000 COVID patients. We conducted more than 15,000 tests. So I think clearly there is, and if I can say it similarly, Medanta, I think in Gurugram, like Dr. Trehan said, they are contributing in their own way by setting up another facility. I believe Apollo is doing it in Chennai and so on and so forth. So I think what you need to look at is the organized sector and the few players, the corporate players. Most of us have a certain geographic concentration. Max, for example, has Delhi. You have Apollo in Chennai. Then, Gurugram is Medanta and so on. And I think each one of us we're trying to pull our weight wherever it's possible.
So you're saying trying to pull your weight. The reality on the ground, government sources tell us is that you're not. They say there are two charges they make. A, that you are overcharging patients. The patient is paying, according to one report, you're charging 5 to 6 times more compared to a government hospital. You are following what is your fee structure at normal times. In a crisis, surely, according to the government, you have to change the rules.
I'm sorry, Rajdeep. Let me be very clear. I don't think any hospital has changed its pricing structure, in the last 3 months. I mean, there is absolutely no question of profiteering during the pandemic. That is one. Secondly, the price of a service at a government hospital is not really worked out because the losses may be subsidized by the government itself. The best example of this is actually in the UK. And what the finance minister over there, Rishi Sunak, has done, he's actually enlisted all the private sector hospitals on a no-profit basis, essentially by paying the direct salaries of doctors and nurses, providing for medicines, providing for personal protection equipment, and enlisting the entire capacity over there. And I think that's a beautiful example, perhaps something which we need to follow in India as well.
That's a very interesting point.
At a time like this, the entire private sector,
That's an interesting point you're making. You are suggesting, and let me take that to Sujata Rao, former health secretary. Here is Abhay Soy of Max suggesting that, look, if you want the private sector to get involved in the COVID fight, then you've got to subsidize us. The private sector private healthcare has its own model. Now, you can't expect it to replicate a government model. The government hospitals ultimately are paid for in a way by the taxpayer. On the other hand, the private healthcare needs subsidization, as is being done in Britain, where hospitals are all being enlisted by subsidizing them in this COVID fight.
Rajdeep, this comparison with UK is not at all correct, because in UK, all the hospitals are all government owned. They're in the public sector. There may be one or two which are private. I'm not so sure even about that. So, whereas here, tertiary care, we have to be concerned not about any old bed that you're taking from a private sector, because I understand in Bombay they're also keeping asymptomatic and mild cases in these private beds just because they come from poor families and they don't have the wherewithal to stay isolated in their own homes. But that's not a very good use of these beds. I'm more concerned about saving lives, which means you have to have ICU capacity. And it's the private tertiary hospitals that have a disproportionately larger amount of ICU capacity compared to government. So when there is a crisis like an epidemic, it's not a question of choice. It's not a question of whether private sector wants to or not. The government has to requisition that capacity. It has to get its act together to see that we don't lose even one life. Having said that, it does not mean that the government gets the services free of cost. There are mechanisms available, there are tools available to see once the protocol of treatment is laid down. My problem is I'm not so sure whether that has been done by the ICMR. But let us assume it has. Then there is a strict protocol. You can do a costing. You can come about with a fair amount of, whatever the money has to be reimbursed, and it's fair. But this is not the time to not make losses, but you don't make profits at this time. This is where the
Should they be
understanding has to
subsidized?
be.
Should the government subsidize the PM Care Fund, for example? Should a part of the PM Care Fund be used to subsidize private hospitals to almost incentivize them to get into this COVID fight?
No, what is the incentivization? You requisition them. You requisition the beds. It's not a question of incentivizing. Incentivizing is I don't want to do it, but I get a better deal by doing it. That choice is not there when there is an emergency on your feet. So the point here is at the same time, you can't expect private sector to do it at a loss. So you have to come to a fair remuneration rate. And for this crisis, they have to come forward. And I believe that most will, provided the rate of remuneration is fair and more than fair quickly. Not that you take 2 years to remunerate, to give in the remuneration.
Let me take that to Dr. Mufassal Lakdawala. Dr. Lakdawala, you are someone who's actually taken the step of working with the government in Mumbai, trying to set up makeshift COVID hospitals, quarantine centers across the city. Do you believe that the private sector at the moment must make that step of working in partnership with the government? Is that the way forward in this COVID fight, a larger public-private partnership?
I think this is a pandemic like none our generation has seen, Ajib, so far. So I believe partnerships are the only model to go. We do know that 80% of the ventilators in the country are controlled by the private sector. We have more than 4/5 of the which is stacked up by the private sector. So this is a time to save your city, in my case, Mumbai, and that's why I volunteered to come forward and help with the BMC. We've got guidelines in place in the private sector, and all these kind of help improve it. It's a perfect partnership model.
So what is the challenge? Is it getting the private sector to give more ICU beds, to give more ventilators? Is that why you believe that the private sector therefore needs to work with the government on ensuring that more ICU beds, 80% of ICU beds are being taken over by the government in Mumbai, for example? Do you believe that's the right step?
The problem is that 80% of the patients of corona today are being treated in the public sector. So if you have 80% of ventilators in the private sector and you have 80% of volume load being handled by the public sector, it's time that we do this partnership, because if we don't do this partnership, we'll probably fail in this war against corona. So I think whilst the government and the BMC in Mumbai's case is building up to get the infrastructure ready, and remember that even European or the American healthcare sectors failed in the aftermath of this massive pandemic. So I think right now is the time to join hands and probably work together and figure out the other things much later. That's what I believe.
A public-private partnership, Dr. Trehan, is that really possible? Because the goals of the public health sector are very different to the private health sector. Do you believe a public-private partnership is really possible?
Look, Rajdeep, it is not only possible, it is happening. The basic thing we all must understand is that in these unprecedented circumstances, there is no distinguished barriers between the private sector or the public sector. The state governments have created, and the cities and districts have created facilities in the government sector. And to supplement that, whenever more beds are required, or treatment or critical care is required, which may be lacking in the government hospitals, yes, we are all ready. We have already associated ourselves, like I gave you the example of Gurugram, that we have these hospitals. If they get overrun, the ones that we have voluntarily created as not-for-profit by 3 hospitals, private hospitals of Gurugram, and we are operating it free of cost from our personnel and all the materials we can give. So then we have made that model with public help. Also, there are a group of volunteers who also work with us. And the point is to provide without distinction. A poor man or a rich man, they must get the same treatment. Their lives are as valuable as they're equal. So these facilities are open to public, and people who want to pay and come there also, they're welcome to come. But the rates are already fixed. Excuse me.
No, the rates are not fixed. Dr. Trehan, in Chennai, for example, a few private hospitals designated as COVID-19 treatment facilities have fixed as much as 70,000 a day for an isolation room. Many hospitals are asking the patients to even pay for PPEs used by doctors. The question is, how much is how much? Do you really expect a private hospital to work at government rates?
So Rajdeep, listen to this. Anybody who tries to profit here at this time is a criminal. The private sector should never be doing that, and if they find somebody is doing that, they should be punished, no question. The only thing that is justifiable is that what is the real cost of taking care of a patient, which is the regular rates of a room being 5,000 rupees, 6,000, 7,000 rupees.
Right.
And if the PPE cost per room is 2,000-3,000 more, then that should be added on. There is no need to make exorbitant prices or make money in this period. This should not be punishable.
Okay, Dr. Abhay Soy, let's look at how the Maharashtra government has gone about it, for example. They are now saying charges for isolation wards for COVID-19 patients will be fixed at 4,000 rupees a day. Charges for an ICU without ventilator, 7,500. ICU with ventilator and isolation capped at 9,000. Do you believe there should be this capping? Because there are those who are arguing this capping is the government sort of deciding when it should be done through either a regulator, which we don't really have at the moment. Why should the government arbitrarily fix rates?
I think, capping as a minimum for something, if you have a particular package, that is important. But just to cap it whole and soul, at the high end, it perhaps doesn't make sense, because you need to ladder it. If somebody can afford a higher, a more aggressive treatment and so on and so forth, look, in this situation, every life matters. You're going to have a situation where people who are going to be in a suite class will require more aggressive treatment are happy to pay for it. Those people should be permitted to pay for it, because that is what is used to cross-subsidize. I think I'm in absolute agreement with what everybody on the panel has said, and I think everybody said it in unison. This is not a time for anybody to profit. So I think that's off the table. Okay, so I don't think anybody is talking about profiteering at a time like this. All I'm saying is that by the end of the day, there are all sorts of players over there. They all have their different, they have different efficiencies in which they operate. I may be more efficient. Maybe there is a smaller player who's less efficient. I think it's a time where we perhaps need to meet their costs, because they need to survive to serve as well. If they don't survive the next 2 months, they won't be able to serve. I think, it's not a time for us to judge. Perhaps, the thing to do is pick up their salaries and help them operate at a time like this.
Therefore...
Look, by the end of the day, it's not only the big boys, the organized sector which is going to come through. It is going to be the bedrock of disorganized sector, which is the smaller nursing homes, and all of them need to be in play in a time like this.
I think that's an important point. The role, of course, that will be played by smaller nursing homes as well as at a time like this. Sujata Rao, is there therefore a need to look at this whole issue of private healthcare? Post-1991, the private healthcare business, as some call it, expanded. Rates were, targets were fixed for doctors. The government, on the other hand, in certain states has been on the retreat. In states like Gujarat, for example, a number of government hospitals have actually been handed over to the private sector. Do you believe there's a need to relook at this in any way?
I think so. And what this COVID-19 has really established is the tremendous need to have government and public hospitals, because it is the public hospitals that really do the infectious disease control programs and the kind of responses that we are seeing today. So I don't at all believe that some of the critical functions of health system, mainly public health and critical care like this, should be handed over totally to the private sector. And that's why I'm very against the new concept of Niti Aayog to hand over district hospitals to private investors. It doesn't even say doctors, it just says investors to set up medical colleges. I think it's a wrong policy. I think what COVID has shown us and demonstrated is a need for strengthening a primary health care and invest very strongly on building up the district hospitals and some amount of at least 50% of the tertiary ICU capacity within the public sector. It's only then you will be able to hold the price line and not have 100% privately run health system. That will be ruinous for a country like India, which has vast iniquities and a huge amount of social and economic iniquities. It's not affordable.
Can I therefore come back to you, Dr. Lakdawala, because in Mumbai, for example, in the last 25, 30 years, maybe even stretching more, we haven't had a single major public hospital being added to the city's infrastructure, a city with more than 2 crore people. Some of the hospitals were set up in the British time, which today are serving us today. The King Edward Memorial Hospital is a British legacy. I just want to understand, do you believe that in our focus on private healthcare, we've forgotten to strengthen the public healthcare system or indeed any kind of public-private partnership?
I think the Seven Hills Hospital in Mumbai is probably one of these examples. That was one of the first hospitals which was a public hospital. Private players came in, like Reliance and various other players came in and then partnered to try and set it up. So I think what Corona has probably done is it has probably served as an awakening call. Today, I am probably running one of the largest facility, and that's a public-private partnership. I do believe, ironically, Rajdeep, it is really funny that we've saved lives of people who could afford the best suite room in a hospital, but unfortunately there were no beds. And we've put in and saved their lives for 2 days until they got a private hospital room. So I think it's the call of the day is to probably set up these partnerships and going forward, continue with them.
But, you know, I keep getting anecdotal evidence, Dr. Lakdawala, in Mumbai, where people who are non-COVID patients, for example, have said that they've struggled to get a hospital bed at the moment. In Mumbai, they've struggled to get ICU facilities. Is that also a concern that in our focus on COVID, we've lost out on non-COVID patients?
Yes, that has been a concern, and that's something that we've addressed. So what we've done is we've set up holding facilities in almost all DCH or dedicated COVID hospitals. These holding rooms are basically rooms wherein you can either be positive or negative, and we've addressed that concern because that was a concern until probably a week back, and we've already addressed that, Rajiv, now.
You know, Dr. Trehan, is that a concern that non-COVID patients are losing out in some way in the focus on COVID? Do you believe that private hospitals, for example, would prefer to focus on non-COVID patients because maybe I will come back to it, maybe the profits to be made there are greater?
No, Rajdeep, you are obsessed with just talking about profits. We are in the service of patients. Now, we are trying to segregate COVID hospitals from non-COVID hospitals, like Vedanta is now a non-COVID hospital because we set up a separate hospital for the COVID patients. So are the other 2 hospitals, Fortis and Artemis in Gurgaon, because of the fact that the non-COVID patients, there are many people who have died at home waiting. They've gotten into complications, so we need to service them also. But if the need be, we keep expanding the capacity of COVID hospitals. As the numbers grow, we must meet with them. And if what has happened in Mumbai or what happened in New York, that the numbers are in such huge numbers that everything is run over, then of course we'll have to mix the hospitals and try to do separate blocks. That's all possible. The need, we are ready for it. I think that there is no stress between the government and private sector in this issue. But what you flagged, that if some bad people are doing bad things in Mumbai or somewhere else and charging exorbitant amounts, they should be taken to task right away. Why should the whole profession be tainted by this whole thing?
I take your point.
You must know that private health today is not in the best of health because every hospital's occupancy is down to 15-20%. They have very high fixed costs. We are borrowing to pay salaries. This is across all hospitals. So the point is not for news purposes to reduce it to this denominator. Okay. The point is to listen to the truth and come up with solutions. It's not a you versus us or anybody like that. There is a lot of cooperation going on. We are dealing with the administration on a daily basis. There are realistic costs that can be fixed, like they did in the testing. that they calculated the cost, gave a margin of 500 rupees to the labs to be able to conduct tests to help with this COVID effort. Similarly, it can be done in COVID hospitals also. That the real cost is taken care of, and we'll have a very healthy system to fight this demon which is upon us.
Can I therefore ask you, Mr. Soy, do you believe post-COVID that the entire business model could change of private hospitals, or that once COVID is over, then private healthcare will go back to its original business model?
Look, I think, please, we need to understand what the business model is in the first place. I think a lot of the private sector hospitals, I can tell you now, across all our hospitals, 10% of the beds are totally free. Another 10% is subsidized. Then you have general wards, you've got multi-share, you've got, single rooms, you've got deluxe rooms, you've got suites, and so on and so forth. So it's not a particular strata of society, okay, which is getting served. Typically, 2 out of 10,000 people require hospitalization in a year. So you're looking at, and please understand, these are high-end quaternary care hospitals. And when I say high-end, I don't mean for a particular socio-economic strata. I mean for the kind of surgery and the kind of stuff which is done. We are doing a huge amount of transplants, and all of these large hospitals are. So when you also look at converting capacity into COVID and mixing it, ideally you should not be mixing, you shouldn't be cohorting COVID and non-COVID patients. And physically, if you have a common air conditioning system, you can't put them in the same critical care, in the same ICU. You have to understand that there are some limitations as well into this whole thing, that you can't just have 80% of capacity and just put COVID into 80%, whereas you leave 20% for non-COVID. I think going forward as well, there is a need for perhaps an ombudsman. There is clearly a need for transparency in this. Okay, but there are models in place. If there is somebody who's overcharging, there is the collector who's been empowered in Mumbai to scrutinize the bill. Somebody needs to scrutinize the bill. Perhaps it doesn't need to happen in the media.
Can I therefore ask you, Sujata Rao, very quickly?
Knee-jerk reactions. This is probably a time needs to be done. We need to follow processes nevertheless.
Can I ask you very quickly, Sujata Rao? Therefore, has the time come for a proper regulator? That's what you need, transparent regulator to decide on these issues.
Absolutely. I think there needs to be a regulator, undoubtedly. And I also want to say what the earlier speaker said. I agree with him. The crisis is not that you can't take 80% of the ICU beds and say this is for COVID. And that's really a problem, because there are essential elective services also that have to be non-COVID, have to be carried on. So it is a very challenging moment for us. But, Rajdeep, I agree with him. COVID is a separate thing. It's a public health emergency. It's an infectious disease, and this has to be contained at all costs. And that cannot be compared with a regular business model where you're doing, cancer or cardio or orthopedics. It's a different ballgame altogether. Okay. So I think where public health is concerned, it's a different dynamic altogether. And public and private sector has to work together. Public sector has to come out with a clear policy of pricing, protocols, and what.
Okay, I take your point. The need for a regulator. Dr. Lakdawala, you've become a bit of an iconic figure in Mumbai, because I'm told you've actually not gone home for almost 3 months, or barely gone home. Setting up this, working with the BMC, how easy or difficult has it been for someone who's used to a private sector system to now work with the government?
It's challenging to say the least, but then these are tough times, and I think we have to live up to our challenges and the things that we are facing. I think one thing I've understood is that the objective is correct. We want to save as many lives as we can. And going forward, the idea of setting up dedicated COVID hospitals has been one, to free up majority of even the public sector hospitals, like you mentioned, KEM or Sion, to free up to do non-COVID major surgeries. Like you saw Mr. Soy say, and the rest of the speakers, even Mr. Trehan said, we need to free it up. So the idea is to dedicate COVID only to one end, and then to do non-COVID so that we can save more lives even for non-COVID, which we are losing right now.
I think all 4 of you have given us a very interesting perspective. This is what the Corona Dialogues are about, to try and explore new areas, and perhaps the public-private healthcare systems post-COVID will undergo some reorientation or a reset. Dr. Trehan, Sujata Rao, Mr. Soy, and Dr. Lakdawala, appreciate your joining us on today's Corona Dialogue.